Awesome. And I figure you're probably just getting settled, so I'll take the first paragraph. We don't necessarily have to flip a coin. All right. So welcome. We are kicking off on page 39. And we're going to be diving into the second full paragraph where it says Fred. So we're going to be going through uh, basically the story of Fred. And it's like, okay, who the heck is Fred? Well, his real name is Harry Brick, which I will just say it puts quite the visual in my mind. I don't know about you. That is some aesthetic sort of building material, like, ooh, somebody stepped on a weird Lego there. So his name is Harry Brick. And if you wanted to dive into more about him and his story, it was in the first edition and it was called A Different Slant. His sobriety date was June of 1938. And if you're like, girl, I don't have a first edition, that's okay. I promise you can find it online somewhere. But also, there is a book called Experience, Strength, and Hope that has all of the all of the stories that were taken out of the first, second, and third edition. So let's dive in. And as we dive into Fred's story, what we want to do, as Terry would say, is, this is a book of mirrors. I want to hold up my experience to Fred's experience. I want to see Fred's experience in my life. And I want to see the symptoms of the illness that is alcoholism, or the illness that is addiction, or the illness that brings you here to this study. So Fred is a partner in a well-known accounting firm. Oh man, this guy Fred, he's got successful, a partner. That means co-owner. Man, Fred killing it financially. I bet he budgets with numbers, not on vibes. And then it says his income is good. I bet you, Mr. Owning an accounting business. Yeah, you do. He has a fine home. Oh, delightful. Is happily married. Oh, what a great husband Fred is. And the father of promising children of college age. Oh, Fred is just the best. And as I continue to read, I'll share with you, I sometimes make silly little pictures when I'm given apparently too much time, which I guess is why I can't say no to service. Uh, and so this is Fred. I sort of made it a little artsy, an artsy picture of our guy, Harry Brick. And man, everybody loves Fred. How do you not love Fred? He's just the best. So it says he is so attractive a personality that he makes friends with everyone. Check out that handsome personality. Who doesn't love Fred? If ever there was a successful businessman, it is Fred. To all appearances, he is a stable, well-balanced individual. To be honest, I know we're looking for our own experience. I'm like, can't relate to any of this. Stable, well-balanced, never met her, never met her. That's not me. But what is the point of this part of Fred's story? Well, I don't know about you, but so many of us come to the rooms of 12 step with no, 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 no. I can't be an alcoholic because I have a successful marriage or a successful business, or look how great my kids are doing. And what we're trying to do with this part of Fred's story is to cut through the denial, to cut through the no, no, I'm not like you, and to have that experience. So it says, to all appearances, he is a stable, well-balanced individual, yet he is alcoholic. And that is important because often I will look and I will compare my outsides to the outsides of others. And that was very literally my experience. I would come to the rooms and I would hear people share about their DUIs, their divorces, their lost houses, lost marriages. I would think, man, I'm not as bad as these guys. Now, keep in mind, DUIs, I never had a driver's license. To be fair, the real ones, no, you don't need to get a driver's license to get a DUI. But I didn't have one. And I didn't have a divorce because it requires a functionality to fill out paperwork to get married. And girl, I was common law, so never had a divorce. And like, house, lost a house. Now I was homeless. You know what I mean? I was looking for all the ways I didn't belong. And what makes me an alcoholic is not the consequences. I mean, obviously, the consequences do point to a problem, but what makes me an alcoholic is lack of control once I start to drink, the physical allergy and the obsession of the mind. The thought that I have when I am sober that takes me back again and again to the first drink. That is what makes me alcoholic. And what we treat in Alcoholics Anonymous is the feeling that we have when we're sober, that conscious sense of separateness from God. And it looks like that restless, irritable discontent. So it says, we first saw Fred about a year ago in a hospital where he had gone to recover from a bad case of jitters. Yeah, Howard's guy, he's got the jitters. And so, listen, he's like, listen, guys, I am successful, I am important. My poop, it is in a group. That is Fred. I'm just a little nervous. Nuh-uh. Fred's case of the jitters is absolutely the result of the allergy of the body. He is drinking himself into withdrawal symptoms. So he starts to drink and he cannot control the amount that he takes. And as a result, he has withdrawal symptoms. So we first saw Fred about a year ago in a hospital where he'd gone to recover from bad case of jitters. Again, you can make a note, physical allergy. It was his first experience of this kind, and he was much ashamed of it. Far from admitting he was an alcoholic, he told himself that he came to the hospital to rest his nerves. Come on, guy. Fred, we're seeing through that, right? No, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just quite stressed out. It says the doctor intimated strongly that he might be worse than he realized. I don't know too many doctors that have good bedside manner. I have a feeling that intimating strongly might be like, buddy, you're an alcoholic. Maybe he was working in a hospital in New York, having that New York attitude. We were joking about that before the meeting, where it's like, I have a feeling he was not intimating subtly. He's like, dude, you are not, maybe doctors don't say dude, but he's saying like, buddy, you are not this like, nervous wreck. You are an alcoholic. For a few days, he was depressed about his condition. He made up his mind to quit drinking altogether. And if we're writing in our book, and I know we're going a little screen share a little early in the study, but if you're writing in your book today, that'll work. You can make a little note that at this point, what he is doing is he is swearing off. This is his firm resolution not to drink again. So, and what we're going to see is we're going to see Fred go through this cycle of alcoholism, this cycle of addiction, this cycle. So right now he is swearing off. He is never going to do it again. And what we're going to do is we go through Fred's story, man, we are going to see if we can pinpoint the moment the mental obsession hits. And why it can be helpful to see ourselves in this cycle. It's because it is a cycle. And if I have examples from my own life of this cycle, what that brings about is the step one experience, which is that I will relapse. That is what we are trying to see here in step one. So it says he made up his mind to quit drinking altogether, him swearing off, never again, firm resolution. It never occurred to him that perhaps he could not do so in spite of his character and standing. Fred would not believe himself an alcoholic, much less accept a spiritual remedy for his problem. So this guy, Fred, he's got no problem. And if I don't have a problem, I don't have a need for the solution. So if I've got no problem, I've got no need for a solution. And that is why we emphasize the hopelessness in step one, because it is only when I can experience the reality of my hopelessness that I am able to accept the hope that is on offer. So I've got to be hopeless to accept the hope. And he's like, no, I'm not an alcoholic, and I sure as heck don't need your spiritual answer. So it says, we told him what we knew of alcoholism. So they were laying down the information and probably focusing quite heavily on the allergy of the body, as well as focusing quite heavily on the obsession of the mind. He was interested, conceded he had some of the symptoms. There's not many, but he was a long way from admitting that he could do nothing about it himself. So let's have a look. We are going to see in this moment the defenses that he is going to raise against the first drink. And we are going to see how effective they are. Spoilers, by the way, Terry, whenever you're good to share, you just turn your camera on and I'll toss it over to you. I'll even do it mid-sentence or mid-thought. Oh, I'll do it mid-tangent, and then that will tag team, and then you got to finish the tangent. So about the Western meadowlark, over to you, Terry. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's a bird joke. Alrighty. So he was interested and conceded he had some of the symptoms, but was a long way from admitting that he could do nothing about it himself. He was positive that this humiliating experience, plus the knowledge he had acquired, would keep him sober the rest of his life. Self-knowledge would fix it. So, anyone here, now not you guys are so upright, outstanding, just wonderful people. But anyone here ever have a humiliating experience or two, especially as it pertains to the allergy of the body? I know, not yet. I'm getting some nods. You guys know what's up. I won't include you with me behind the dumpster with the wet pants. You guys are classy, but that's where I am. You know what I mean? And let's look back. How long did that humiliating experience keep us sober? Maybe it was a day. Maybe it wasn't even a day. Maybe it was so humiliating, I got to take a drink to take the edge off. Maybe it was a week. Maybe it was a couple months. Maybe even a year or two. But it was not enough to keep me sober. I cannot stay sober based on a humiliating experience. That is not enough. Now, it would be enough for other people who did not have this illness. Anyone here ever get a bad case of like food poisoning? You weren't just right around the corner to go back to those deviled eggs or whatever it was. You know that you were able to swear those off. No, thank you, right? And then what else? He's going to raise the defense he's raising is self-knowledge. Self-knowledge. So have we had self-knowledge? And what are the various examples of self-knowledge? Man, have we ever come to a big book study where we learned about the inevitable nature of the first drink or the first drug or the first compulsive behavior that brings you to this study? Did I ever do a lot of therapy or counseling? Did I ever, go to an addictions doctor, specialist, counselor? Did I have knowledge about this condition? Heck, was there even a time where I might have worked a set of steps and stopped doing them? And none of that is enough to keep me sober. Is that my experience? Because that's what we want to see. That's what we're trying to get at in step one. All right. And as Howard, as Howard put in the chat, intimated means hinted or implied. And then, if I do not take the first step, there's no need. Oftentimes when people talk about struggling with step two, it's really a step one issue. I don't understand the hopelessness of my predicament. When I'm at a place of desperation, I'm less inclined to be perturbed to what the color the life preserver looks like. I wanted chartreuse, It's white and it's after Labor Day. I can't have this life preserver, you know what I'm saying? Right? But when I know that I'm browning, I'm like, all right, after Labor Day, doesn't matter, I don't actually know the rules about that sort of thing. So he's got his self-knowledge. He's got all of that. It says, we heard no more of Fred for a while. One day we were told that he was back in the hospital. This time he was quite shaky. Uh-oh, what happened? And what we want to do, what is our natural inclination? What happened to Fred? What happened? But just a gentle reminder, it is not what happened. What happened was inevitable. It was inevitable that if Fred is an alcoholic, it was inevitable that he was going to drink again. It is what did not happen, or what stopped happening. So what did not happen was a spiritual awakening as the result of these 12 steps as a way of life. Or what stopped happening? These 12 steps as a way of life. So, and then quite shaky, allergy, before he drank, it was the obsession. Then he took the drink, obsession of the mind. He takes the drink, allergy of the body. He's drinking himself into just some more jitters. What a wild condition. All righty. And it says the story he told is most instructive. For here's a chap absolutely convinced he had to stop drinking, who had no excuses for drinking, who exhibited splendid judgment and determination in all his other concerns, yet was flat on his back nevertheless. Flat on his back meant hopeless, hopeless. Think like a turtle. You know what I mean? Hopeless, stuck there. And we can use this a little like a mirror. Am I somebody who was absolutely convinced that I needed to stop drinking or stop using or stop engaging in what addictive behavior brings you to this all-inclusive study? Was I convinced that I needed to not do it again? And was that, as Howard put in the chat, an insufficient higher power? The need to stay sober, the want to stay sober, the desire to stay sober has no effect for someone like me. And then no excuse for drinking. Were there times where I relapsed and there was absolutely no reason, absolutely no excuse, and I had nothing that I could point to for the reason why? And this is where we lose me in terms of trying to mirror, who exhibited splendid judgment and determination in all his other concerns. Okay, that's not me. But we can look at ourselves. Are there areas of our life where we have incredible judgment? Where maybe people rely on our ability to make decisions. Maybe we make decisions for other people. And that determination. Anyone here ever try to run a marathon so you don't drink again? Anyone, triathletes? Some of you are like, absolutely not. The only marathon I'm doing is Netflix, girl. I got you. And no judgment. But I was before I really got into my addiction, I was in incredible shape. I would go for 2 runs a day. I was doing circuit training. I was doing weightlifting. I was training with people who took the sport that we were playing incredibly seriously. And I'm a bit of an all-in sort of person, and I can assure you that it was not enough. That determination, man, I remember just as some of the consequences were really hitting. I was homeless, living on the streets of Calgary. Homeless does not make me an alcoholic. Might make me a bad roommate. Doesn't make me an alcoholic. What makes me an alcoholic? Lack of control, lack of choice. But my coach, he was like, Paige, he was trying to break me out of it, wake me out of it. And he's like, Paige, what I want you to do is go for a run every day. And the illness had me. And there was not a way that I could have even possibly done that. And that was the first time I didn't follow through on one of those directions, because I was like, take things seriously. Oh, I'm keener all the way. But that same discipline to do that every morning, and I was at 7 in the morning, I would go for these. Oh, I'm not a morning person. That same discipline had absolutely no power to keep me sober. And so it says, let him tell you about it. I was much impressed with what you fellows said about alcoholism. And I frankly did not believe it would be possible for me to drink again. There's no way I'm going to drink again. Have we ever come to the rooms and said, no, I know I'm an alcoholic or I'm an addict. I know I'm never going to drink again. And have we drank or used or relapsed again? Let him tell you about it. I was much impressed with what you fellows said about alcoholism, and I frankly did not believe it would be possible for me to drink again. I rather appreciated your ideas about the subtle insanity which precedes the first drink. Now, that subtle insanity that precedes is before. That is the obsession of the mind. And the obsession of the mind is the thought that I have before I take the drink. Because before I take any action, there has to be a thought, because my brain's got to be firing to tell me to do it. Because that's how the brain works, right? So the obsession of the mind is the thought that takes me back to the first drink again and again. And that, man, if I've got that, I'm doomed to drink again. I've been talking about how the allergy means that I can never drink or use safely ever again. And that is a promise. The allergy promises that there will never be a time when I can ever safely do it again. And the obsession of the mind promises that I will do it again. That's the hopelessness. And it says, I rather appreciated your ideas about the subtle insanity which precedes the first drink. But I was confident it could not happen to me after what I had learned. I got knowledge. I got that self-knowledge. I'm Fred, I got an accounting business. I got a wife, my kids. Oh, they're promising children of college age. I got my stuff. I'm Fred. I'm good. And he said, I reasoned that I was not so far advanced as most of you fellows. Anyone here come in the rooms and think, no, I'm not as bad as you. You guys have it worse. I got baby alcoholism or baby drug addiction, or it's like being a little bit pregnant. You know what I mean? Like I only have a little. I don't have to do all that you do. I can take the diet option, sugar-free. Oh. And so it says, I reasoned I was not so far advanced as most of you fellows, and that I had been usually successful at licking my other personal problems. And so what that means is, man, Fred, he's like, I crush it. I'm good. You give me a problem, I'll solve it. I feel like that's part of a rap, but I don't know the before or after that rap. Something, I'll solve it. You put that in the chat if you know what song that is, because I don't. But like that idea that he is able to be successful in all these other areas of his life, and that therefore he would be successful where you men fail. I felt I had every right to be self-confident. It would be only a matter of exercising my willpower and keeping on guard. Not in the aggressive on guard sort of way, but I just was in the vibe. So I want to be like, on guard. I'm going, and Vanilla Ice. Yeah. Ice baby. Rachel got it. Yeah, ice baby. Oh gosh. I know everyone's like, Terry, come back. Terry, come back. We can something. The problem is, this is how my brain is going, but I don't know the words or the tune or the beat to any songs. Terry. We're all just saying a little prayer. So we love you. All right. So willpower, staying on guard. And part of why the joke about on guard is that idea like, man, I'm going to go to battle with my illness. I'm going to go to battle with my alcoholism. I'm going to go to battle with my addiction. Anyone here ever say that or watch somebody say that? And that is a losing battle. I will lose every single time. My willpower, my guard, all my forces are not sufficient. So it says, in this frame of mind, I am on guard. I am watching. I got this. I went about my business. And for a time, all was well. He's got it. Fred's got this. There's no way he's going to drink again. What could go wrong? I had no trouble refusing drinks and began to wonder if I had not been making too hard work of a simple matter. Now, as we go through, we're watching for Fred's obsession of the mind. Now, at this moment, he has not, the full insanity of this illness has not hit him, but we see the subtlety. And in Fred, it looks like, maybe I'm just overthinking this. Maybe I'm just, maybe it wasn't that bad. And me constantly being vigilant, I don't need to do all of that. But what does it look like for those of us who are in the rooms of 12 step? It looks a little like, oh, man, none of my sponsees are staying sober. I don't need to do that so much. And I talk about that where it's like, and so many of them are, it's actually overwhelming. I don't have a lot of free time. Uh, it looks like, oh, I don't need to do that prayer, that meditation. Who does an evening review every night? Got some bad news. I do. Who prays and meditates every day? Spoilers, bad news. It's this one. Yeah, that's a good point where like, is this where it starts? And for me, like it starts as soon as he puts down the drink, as soon as he gets sober, it begins because it is inevitable. His defenses were always going to be eroded. His defenses were always going to be insufficient. It was never going to be enough. But yeah, it looks like I don't need to go to so many meetings. Oh, service, my business meeting that my home group. Oh, it's the worst. I don't want to go. And to be honest, that's a lot of how I feel about it. Ugh. Uh, but it's the erosion. I don't need to make that amends, or I don't need to write that inventory. It is erosion of the course of action that we take that allow us to live in a state of grace. So yeah, and like this inevitability, it is ramping up. And now what I like to do is at this point of the book, I like to play a game called Let's Find Fred's Triggers. Let's find it. And I know some of you are like, what? Sorry, what page? So I'm joking. It's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing, but there are times where I've heard, no, all you got to do, Paige, is watch your triggers. You just avoid your triggers. And I'll be quite real with you. Existence seems to be the real trigger for me. Just, cognitive functioning. When I seem to have some sort of cognitive functioning, it's like, uh-oh, we're in trouble. But I like to do this as a little tongue-in-cheek thing. And as we go through, we're going to point out where Fred goes insane. But let's play the game. Let's find Fred's triggers. So one day I went to Washington to present some accounting evidence to a government bureau. Oh, that must be his trigger, you guys. Going out of town. That's got to be his trigger. I'd been out of town before during this particular dry spell, so there was nothing new about that. Well, darn. That couldn't be his trigger. Maybe, yeah. Terry's got it in the chat. Trigger was a horse. But he wasn't the talking horse. That was Mr. Ed. Different horse. A horse, of course. Oh, man. Terry, you sent me on a tangent. You know how sometimes in the rooms when we're talking about not being successful at carrying the message, what's an old adage? Oh, old horse-related adage. I know. I'm so sorry. Terry's off camera on mute, and still we're going on tangents. But that old saying, what do we say? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But here's the thing about that adage and why it might not be correct in a number of ways, but in the rooms of 12 step. Well, if you're ever in a survival situation, which I don't think I'm going to end up into too many of those, and you need to find fresh water, you follow the horse. Because a horse is going to know where water is safe to drink. And so if I am working with somebody and I'm saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, it is an opportunity for me to reflect. Am I offering stagnant water? Am I not offering the life-giving water that is this fellowship, these 12 steps? Or am I offering, just don't drink, go to meetings? Or am I saying, man, if you want to get well, let's go. Let's go. Like that's the difference. And I see that Scott has put a funny in the chat. So I will try to catch up. You can lead a horse to water. Or no, oh man, I messed it up. It's a great visual pun. You can lead a horse to water, but a pencil must be lead. Very good. Very good. Oh gosh. So we're going back to the trigger game. Fred's trigger. It cannot be out of town because he'd been out of town before, huh? Maybe he's feeling a little under the weather. Maybe he's got a case of the man flu. Maybe he's just not feeling, I'm just teasing. He's not feeling well. Physically, I felt fine. Gosh, that must not be his trigger. Maybe he had a whole bunch of pressing problems and worries. Neither did I have any pressing problems or worries. Okay, maybe not pressing ones, but maybe that business that he was presenting to the government bureau, maybe it didn't come off very good. I know that would be a real trigger for me. Maybe he was afraid of what people thought. And it says, neither did I have any pressing problems or worries. My business came off well. I was pleased and knew my partners would be too. Okay, you guys, I think I figured it out. It's clouds. It has got to be clouds. Clouds are Fred's trigger. It's got to be that. It was the end of a perfect day, not a cloud on the horizon. Darn it, it's not clouds. Okay, what is this guy's trigger? All right, so it says, as I went to my hotel and leisurely dressed for dinner. Now, I'm going to assume he was already dressed when he did his presentation to the government bureau, so getting dressed probably is not a trigger for him. And it says, as I crossed the threshold of the dining room, the thought came to mind that it would be nice to have a couple of cocktails with dinner. That was all, nothing more. That's it, you guys. We found his trigger. Thresholds. That's right, Howard. It is thresholds. We just need to avoid thresholds. That's it. And if you're like, what is a threshold? A threshold is literally a doorway where you go from one plane to another. And they used to put the thresh of like grains to keep the wind out back in the day. And so what I will point out is in the italics, the thought came to mind that it would be nice to have a couple of cocktails with dinner. That was all, nothing more. Now that thought has to come to mind before the drink comes to lips. That is the obsession of the mind. Now, if you're here today and you're like, Paige, I'm in a room, and to leave the room, there are thresholds. What am I going to do? If you're in a car, guess what? There's a threshold there. You got to cross that. Like, oh no, what do we do? Well, you can make a note. You don't have to make a note in your book. But if you want to make a note in your book, page 160, let's pop over. Let's do a big book bounce around. Page 160. This is one of my least practically useful sort of tangents. Well, that might not be true. So where we're going is we're going to go to the second full paragraph on page 160 where it says many a man. And what we're talking about is T. Henry and Clarence Williams' house in Akron, Ohio. In Akron, Ohio, the house that was given to the Oxford group members and alcoholics who were wanting and trying to get sober in Ohio. And they were talking about that house where they would hold their meeting. And it says, many a man, yet dazed from his hospital experience, has stepped over the threshold of that home into freedom. And you see, thank goodness, I don't got to watch my triggers. Thank goodness, what is on the other side is freedom. That's what is on offer in Alcoholics Anonymous and Cocaine Anonymous and Drug Addicts Anonymous and Overeaters Anonymous and whatever 12-step fellowship you are a part of. That is what is on offer, freedom. Now, the threshold we are crossing is not just a literal doorway. It is the plane of the third dimension into the plane of the fourth dimension. We're going into, and you might be like, oh, that's some trippy stuff. No, I'm just talking about the spiritual awakening. Where that peace, that calm, that serenity, that ability to see life as it truly is. That's what gets to happen for us. So thank goodness we get across those thresholds. Am I right? Oh gosh. I know. We're all like, Terry, please come back. We need you. Oh, all righty. So back on page 41. He crossed the threshold of the dining room. The thought came to mind. That is the mental obsession. And this is what the obsession of the mind looks like. That it would be nice to have a couple of cocktails with dinner. That was all. Nothing more. And that's what it looks like. Just Terry will be on in 5 minutes. He's saving you guys. But no pressure though. I wasn't trying to. That's the thing, is I didn't want to guilt anyone. Uh, oh, I'm codependent. I got a fellowship for that. You just got to cross the threshold. Work those 12 steps is a way of life. Anywho, so that is what the obsession of the mind looks like. And in this moment, what do we not see? We do not see his willpower. We do not see his sound reasoning. We do not see the humiliating experience. A drink with dinner would be nice. And that is it. And it says, I ordered a cocktail and my meal. Then I ordered another cocktail. After dinner, I decided to take a walk. When I returned to the hotel, it struck me that a highball would be fine before going to bed. So I stepped into the bar and had one. And what we can see is that is the allergy of the body. And that's what it looks like. Especially at first, it just looks like, you know what? I'll have another cocktail going for a walk. You know what? Before I go to bed, it'll be nice to have a highball before night. And I start going and I set that thing off. That tells me more. And as we continue, the louder that more gets. So it says, I remember having several more that night and plenty the next morning. I have a shadowy recollection. And if you're wondering, a shadowy recollection, that is what is known as a blackout, which I was almost a year sober when I was at university, and I was overhearing non-alcoholics talking about their drinking. I was just listening. I was just an open observer, and I remember the one person sharing, yeah, no, I blacked out, and that is really terrifying. And it clicked that blacking out is abnormal. Now, some of you are like, girl, why would you ruin my Friday evening with this news? That was my regular sort of occurrence. Did it happen every single time? Nope, but it happened more often than it didn't. It happened quite regularly. And sometimes I would have what are called brownouts, where it's like a little fuzzy, but there's a little bit more of the bits and pictures. And I used to joke, I'm like, I don't have a problem. I am just really scientifically minded. I'm into time travel. So what happens is I, take a drink on a Tuesday. Woo! It's Saturday. Up in time travel. And also, like in Star Trek when they have the little thingies, the beam me up Scotties. Oh, I'm so sorry. I just know that in that moment, there are some nerds that I annoyed, and I apologize profusely. Whatever the transponder teleporter thing, I know it's not called a beam me up Scotty. Somebody's so annoyed with me right now. I apologize. Oh, now I want to lean into it though. Now I want to be like, Luke Skywalker is my favorite Star Trek character. And I really love Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. No, he was. I mean, in Harry Potter. Sorry. I know. I'm sorry, David. I'm so sorry. It's always so lovely to have you, and I ruin it. I'm just teasing. All right. So, but I would teleport, y'all. I would wake up in strange places. Oh, anyone ever wake up in a strange, different city, different person's bed? Woo! I'm popping up and I'm all over the place, right? Ooh, I'm just into that sci-fi science fiction. All right. So he has a shadowy recollection of being in an airplane bound for New York, and of finding a friendly taxi cab driver at the landing field instead of my wife. Oops. Oops. Like, uh-oh. Now listen, I know what it is like to be an untreated Al-Anon. Legit. Listen, and I got sober and I got well before they had Apple AirTags. But this is a time where we can't Apple AirTag, the alcoholic like they're a toddler. We can't. There's no cell phone service. There's no location tracking. He's just not there. And then this is what is known to the alcoholics as an oopsie doopsie, and to the Al-Anons as a deal breaker. Is this? The driver escorted me about for several days. I know little of where I said, sorry, the driver escorted me about for several days. I know little of where I went or what I said and did. Several days. Could you imagine? Like, and some of you are like, no, I don't need to. I did that. My bad. They didn't turn on location on my phone. Sucks to be them. Uh, but you know what I mean? Like, oh, that is not cool. That's not cool behavior, but that is a spree. Also, I will say that gosh, that taxi bill. Oh, like that's got to be expensive. Like you're probably not getting a deal on that. Several days taxi. Yeah, that is how I put complete carnage. Not just the little oopsie doopsie that I try to minimize it. Like that is so not cool. And it says, then came the hospital with the unbearable mental and physical suffering. And I'm just going to do a quick little screen share just to show us, because this is what we're talking about. So what happened was that he swore off. He met the alcoholics in the hospital. And he said, I am never going to drink again. And he meant it. And he raised a defense. Now, we didn't talk much about his spiritual malady. It's interesting. Jim, oh, goodness, Jim, he is riddled with riddled with restless, irritable discontent. He is mad at his boss. He's he's wound type of Fred. He's having a great day. There's not a cloud on the horizon. But regardless, the mental obsession still came. The thought came to mind. And then he took that drink for that sense of ease and comfort. But it set off that phenomenon of craving, that this time will be different. Not this time will be different, that I need more. And the more I go, the more I go. And he goes on his spree. Missed the wife. Comes to emerging remorseful in the hospital. We're going to see that firm resolution. Now, as we go through, we're going to see him get off the cycle and the course of action that he needs to take to get off the cycle. But that's what's happened. And can I see examples like that in my own life? So it says, as soon as I regained my ability to think, I went carefully over that evening in Washington. Not only had I been off guard, I'd made no fight whatever against the first drink, and that is in italics. Turns out they didn't spend extra on it, but the parable is, it's important. Pay attention. You know what else is important? Terry, pew, pew, pew. I'm going to do a couple extra pews because you're trying to find the page. Pew, pew. Actually, just hop in. As soon as you got the page, just hop in. I had commenced to drink as carelessly as though the cocktails were ginger ale. I now remembered what my alcoholic friends had told me, how they prophesied that if I had an alcoholic mind, and this is the prophecy that is for each and every one of us. I'm making this prophecy, then I'm turning it over to Terry. I wanted to get them situated, get them sorted. The time and place would come. I would drink again. That is what is prophesied for us. That is what is promised for us. I will relapse. Top of page 42. Over to you, Terry. Pew, 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 pew.
Paige, thanks for the patience, everyone here. I was sorry, I was at a meeting, in-person meeting, and they were talking about don't drink and go to meetings. And then they asked me to share, and I said the definition of insanity is being part of a 12-step fellowship and not doing the 12 step. And that ruffled some feathers there. Um, but I mean, think about it. Like I look at Fred's story, and like you were talking about, on guard, right? On guard. Like, what does that look like? I mean, I was listening to someone talk about how they're having a crappy day and how they need to go make amends for something they did. They were using step 10 as a damage control step. And I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, how can I help this person? How can I be useful to this person? I wasn't judging him because I understand that he is someone who is hurting right now, someone who doesn't understand that there is a way out, someone doesn't understand that our common solution is a spiritual experience. But And I had the ability to approach him at a meeting where people are hurting. I think I made the decision, Paige, that I'm gonna start going to these meetings where they're pretty sordid places, you know. I think that I'm gonna start going to these places because this is where the people that I can help. I mean, I'm listening to people with 42 years talk about how they use step 10 as a damage control step, where step 10 is living in the right here, right now, and where I don't react to life like I used to step. And I mean, I read Fred's story. I mean, obviously, right, he was just a little pregnant, just a baby drunk, right? And reading it currently, it's like, look, this is my current experience because I couldn't really relate to this because he's a high bottom. I was pretty low bottom, but I'm trying to relate it to my current life, my current experience. I have an attractive personality. I'm a well-balanced person. I'm a father of, promising child. Like I have these things in my life, but yet I'm an alcoholic. Like for some reason we have like I guess called a built-in forgetter. My friend who was my roommate at sober living said his superpower was that he forgot. He forgets. And reading Fred's story helps me remember that I'm not immune, that I am in a grip of a progressive illness. I have to be convinced of that. I get unconvinced because life gets really good. Life gets really good. And what happened to him is that he went through denial, rationalization. I'm fine. I got self-knowledge. I know the big book. I know 1930s definitions of the big book. I've studied AA comes of age. I've studied the traditions. I've studied this. I've studied that. Uh, Life is great. Not a cloud on the effing horizon. And then I told you guys about a month ago, I almost, beat up my kid. And thank God I did not. But that night I had a dream about getting drunk. I had an insane thought hit me in my damn dreams. That's telling me that I have a mind of an alcoholic or an addict. It's telling me that somewhere subtle inside of me, I will drink no matter what. And I think that's what Paige was saying. Whatever guards or whatever defenses you got is at work, working a lot. I've done that. Who's worked 1,000 hours a week, right? Or working out. Who's done working out? Just gets over going to meetings. Going to meetings just to feel better. That's another form of management and control. Or all this other stuff doesn't help me with my living problem. Doesn't help me with my thinking, and it does not help me against the first strike. And I think that's something that's really scary when I read Fred's story because I could become Fred in sobriety. And yeah, I think what on top of page 42,
Yeah, it was right in the middle because I just wanted to give you.
it's just
They had said that though, and feel free to go back and cover it more you want to.
you did a wonderful job, and yeah, Trigger was a horse. I love that. I think I'm gonna start using that. All Fred's triggers, right? Yeah, we'll just go start where we left off. Was it top of 42? Well, just that did happen.
It's yeah, 42. They said that though I did raise a defense, it would one day give way. Very, very top of the page.
Yeah, the one day would give way before some trivial, meaning some insane idea, reason, thought for having a drink. Well, that just did happen, and more. What I learned about alcoholism did not occur to me at all. I mean, I've heard Ralph White talk about this. It's not about learning, it's about becoming. I mean, I could learn all about this stuff. I could learn about story of Fred. What was his name? Harry Prick, right? That didn't sound too good if you said it really quickly, right? Right. I can learn all about his story, I can learn about all this stuff, but that's not going to help me when it comes against the first string. But that's an experience he had to have, like I've been working with a few people who have had some slips, and sometimes they have to have that experience. Sometimes they're a balloon that needs to be popped. Sometimes they need a drink in order to remember what they are, to smash that built-in forgetter that's within all of us, because it's there. It ain't going anywhere. I don't give a shit how much time you have. You know, oh, I got 42 years sober, one day at a time. Don't drink and go to meetings. It sounds like you're closer to a drink than me. You know, it doesn't matter. And he says, I knew from that moment that I had an alcoholic mind. Right? And I have an alcoholic mind. It is gone. It goes away. I become in a recovered state, but it could come back. I could become unrecovered, just like I did about a month ago when I had a dream about getting drunk. I literally woke up in guilt and shame. I was like, damn, what about all I can't say I got one day of sobriety. That sucks. But who cares? Who cares about how much time we have? All we have is right now. But long story short, I have a mind that's there. It's dormant right now. That little obsession to drink and get high, it's dormant, but it's never going away. I just offset that with my daily reprieve. I saw that willpower, choice and control, and self-knowledge will not help me in those strange mental blank spots. I have never been able to understand people who said that a problem of them hopelessly defeated. I knew. I love that word. Knew, know. I've been looking at those words throughout the big book, just like the words let or now or become or became. I knew it was a gnosis. I was to know happiness. I was to know peace. This is experiential. This is an experience you have to have. Sometimes I heard this from a speaker. I love it. The best way to understand step one is to drink. Well, that's that it, and it sounds crazy and ludicrous to hear that, but it's so true. I can't teach pain to you. I can't teach that hopelessness to you. I can't teach you the pain and humiliation of what happened a week. I can't teach you any of that. I just can't. Like you have to have that. That's inside of you. That's in your gut. You could call it a healthy fear. I mean, another words for a healthy fear is an intuitive thought that comes from God, right? Like, damn, like I'm scared poopless to ever get high and drunk again, but my mind will become so much of a chatterbox that I won't even hear that. I won't even hear think to drink through or any of those other stuff that you hear in a meeting. I'll just drink. Right? So two members of Alcoholics Anonymous came to see me. They grinned. I love that line. And why were they grinning? Like I had a friend, a really close friend of mine when I went to high school with him, and he's been going in and out, in and out. And I just sent him a flyer that I was speaking. This was about 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And he hit me and he texted me back and he's like, "Can we talk?" And I was like, "Sure, no problem." And then he told me he literally was about to, he this crazy story. He was supposed to die. I don't really want to get into it because that's his story. And he got my flyer and he survived that ordeal. And he got sober for about a year and then he went back out again. And then when he hit me up again, he was like, I finally know. Like, and I grinned. Like I was like, yeah, now you understand, pal. Like, you get what I'm saying. I can't literally verbalize this to you only through my experience, but you understand the ass whooping that you need. Like you needed a good, well whooped ass, like those people in California talk about. All right. And in order, or in order to understand that I am truly hopeless, that I will drink again, that I need a defense, that my mind won't help me at certain times against the first drink. I knew it. And I grinned at it. I smiled. Right. And he was willing to do whatever it takes. That's why I grinned, because I know this cat's ready to go because I was in his same exact shoes. Like I was there. Like I know that he's gonna climb any mountain and sail across any sea. Yeah, I stole that from a foreigner song. Right? In order to get this spiritual experience. Like I know that he is gonna do the deal. That's why I was grinning, because I knew that I could see hopelessness on his face and that he was determined to do whatever it takes. Those are the people that I love to work with. Right? Because those are the people I will break my back for them because they're fighting for their life. Simple as that. Okay, which I didn't like so much. Why is that? Because they're laughing at me. No, no, no. Then they asked me if I thought myself an alcoholic and if I were really lit this time. Like, am I really done? Am I done drinking for good and forever? Another reference to permanent sobriety, and I had to concede. Where we hear concede back on page 30. I conceded. Surrender, you could say. I'm admitting it to my gut and to my soul that like I surrender to both propositions that yeah, I'm an alcoholic. Like this stuff is true. Like I'm gonna drink no matter what, and when I drink, I lose all control, and I end up in different places, and I don't stop until you know, the kangaroo reference. Who knows the kangaroo reference or the gorilla reference? You understand? I ain't gonna stop until either the dope dealer runs out of dope, or I'm literally waking up or passed out somewhere where I never even knew I was gonna end up being, right? Like I have to concede to that. I also have to concede to the fact that my mind, it is a talker, is a liar sometimes, is Romeo, is a lover. It can become Rambo. My mind could become the AA sponsor. My mind could become Mr. Spiritual Man. Mr. AA convention speaker. I'm being considered to speak at the World Convention in CA. Whoa. Okay. I can't wait to talk about what I'm going to talk about then when I get there. Let me start planning now before I'm even considered by the committee. Ha ha. Right? This is all about the talker and the minion in my head. If I concede to that proposition that I have in mind, or an ego, or it's myself, or my thinker, that's not who I am. That's who I'm not. I'm a child of God. I'm an agent of God. I'm a channel of God. Like I'm someone who is supposed to live right here, right now in God's country from moment to moment to moment basis. I'm not my mind. Right? I'm not. The only thing is what I do is I align my thinking or I align my will with God. That's when I'm in true harmony. I can see to that every single day. I was just talking about I literally have conversations with myself sometimes, right? I remember I was talking to myself earlier. I was nervous about going to this in-person meeting and getting my son back home in time. And I'm so nervous. And I remember listening to the talker, the thinker in my head. And you know what I said? I'm like, oh my God, I'm listening to the story that's in my head. Why not I pause when I'm agitated or I'm doubtful? Try practicing pause when doubtful. That's not really easy to do. Practice that for an entire week. I pause when I'm doubtful. You know what I said? Hey, thanks for sharing. Next, next, right? And then I went on a bit about my business and God removed that fear. If I listen to it so much, what will happen is I'll have an insane thought about getting high or getting drunk. That's been my experience. Who's ever listened to their resentments or fears before? I have. I mean, how long have you listened to your resentments? I mean, now it's getting shorter and shorter, but I even in the beginning of recovery, I would listen to my resentments for an entire week or a month, you know? And if I listen to it long enough, I will have a thought about getting high because that's my solution. I'm sorry, I'm talking way too long time. Oh my God, I'm past time. I'm sorry, Paige. I'll stop after this. They piled on heaps of evidence to the effect that alcoholic mentality, such as I exhibited in Washington, was a hopeless condition. They cited cases out of their own experience by the dozen. This process, remember the definition of process? We went over that. It's a series of steps, sounds familiar, or actions, sounds familiar, that produces a particular end. This process snuffed out the last flicker of conviction that I could do the job by myself. Ask yourself, can you do the job by yourself today? No, I need power. I need relationship with power. Without you, there's no me either. I need you guys. I need everything, which is God is everything. Back to you, Paige. Thanks. Pew, pew, pew.
Pew, pew, pew. And all I will say, and we'll wrap it up, is when that last flicker of conviction that he can do it his way is snuffed out. That is his step one. And how he got that was from other alcoholics, or in our case, addicts, sharing their experience with that cycle. And that snuffed it out. And it was enough to be like, I can't do this. Step one. So I will stop the recording. We'll wrap it up. Do a prayer. It'll be fun. And join us next week where we'll find out what happens to Fred. It's the exciting adventures of Everybody Loves Fred. I don't know. Yep. Come back next week. Okay. Thank you.